Wonderful. On today's episode of Into the Heart, I am absolutely delighted to have Viktoria Chervenkova, a passionate advocate for women's financial empowerment and the founder of Money Master Moms, a thriving community and blog dedicated to helping women master the money game with ease and grace. Drawing from years of personal finance education and experience and a deep love for mythology, she created a unique, inspiring approach to money management, combining ancient mythological wisdom with modern financial strategies to help women embrace their money mindset, build sustainable wealth, and step into their financial power like the goddesses they are. When she's not writing, she's mentoring women, creating transformative programs, traveling, dancing, and taking care of her loving husband and two beautiful daughters. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy, for having me on the podcast. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. I'm delighted that you could make it this morning and all the way from across the ocean. So I am really, I'm really delighted to have you. So,
Thank you.
one of my very first questions for you is really around your background and what connects you to the theme of the unleashing the inner money goddess. So, could you speak a little bit about that?
Sure, sure. So I'll skip the 20 years marketing experience before I came into this entirely new field for me. But I actually started on my own financial education journey several years ago. It was at a time when my kids grew old enough so that they could start, taking more care of themselves.
Mhm.
And this opened up just enough space for me to start thinking about, future plans. How do we see ourselves in 20, 30 years, where we want to be, what kind of legacy we want to leave? And then I realized with horror, I have to admit, that relying on our pension system, the way it is set up here where I am, will lead us to a life of misery, like 90% of the retirees that I see around me. So that was my wake up call. That was the time that I decided I have to take things in my own hands. So I educated myself. I like to joke that I got a university degree in personal finance management without, professors teaching me, just self-educating.
Yeah.
So I read books, I attended seminars, I took programs. I mean, anything you can imagine, a person dedicated to learning everything about investing and budgeting and saving. And that was how many, like 6 years ago, I think, when I started. And there was this, again, online seminar that I attended for financial literacy, and the people who spoke again, spreadsheets, stock prices, funds, the usual stuff.
Mhm.
And then Morgan Housel, the author of Psychology of Money, took the stage. And the way he talks about money is unique. He uses real life stories to
Okay.
extrapolate financial lessons.
Mhm.
So that's my favorite book on finances. And I always mention him because he has influenced me so much.
Yeah.
So I listened to him, I listened to these stories, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's how you're supposed to talk about money, especially when it comes to women, because the way we relate with money is on a very different level. Like we need to feel something, we need, a connection with the heart, the soul, so that we can act on it. When
Mhm.
it's just dry numbers, it doesn't really speak to you, it doesn't spark any enthusiasm to jump into it, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I was listening to Morgan, and at the same time, I was reading this book by Carol Pearson, Persephone Rising, which is about embodying ancient archetypes into our everyday lives and how we exhibit those personality traits, those transformation journeys. And then these two things just came together so powerfully for me that I immediately saw the whole concept of using ancient mythology, using these timeless stories to teach lessons about money.
Mhm.
And that's how the book got born.
I love it. Absolutely beautiful. What an incredible way to bring different ways of being and thinking into creating a new pathway for deepening the understanding of a relationship, because our relationship with money is is something that I don't know, I think you're pointing to the direction that women maybe have a different relationship with money
Yeah.
than other people. So I would love for you to walk us through um, how in your body of work you see that the embodiment of one of these archetypal goddesses maybe plays out. What are some of the stories that you can share? I know you probably talk about a lot of different goddesses, but maybe just in general, if you could share a little bit about how this is embodied in the way that we women actually are living our lives in today.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll use myself as an example because, this is the the
Yes,
easiest one that comes to my mind.
sure.
So when I started on my financial education journey, like I went, full head on. I devoured all the content, the knowledge, and I had to put it in practice, right? It's one thing to just read and learn, but it's a totally different thing to practice it. So I started putting together this crazy spreadsheet
Mhm.
that had all these columns and rows of how I am allocating our family finances into different buckets, into investments, into savings for holidays, and all of that. It was like crazy complicated.
Mhm.
Later on, when I was working on the book and this concept for the goddesses archetypes, I started exploring those deeper. I just realized I was playing the financial game entirely like an Athena,
Ah,
the ancient goddess of wisdom and war, because she has much more masculine power in her as compared to other goddesses. And she is all about strategy and planning and putting budgets together. And like, if you're the type of woman who likes to track her expenses, to know exactly where each penny goes,
mm,
that's Athena. That's Athena in play.
I see.
And then as a complete contrast, I know this woman, she is a friend of my parents and I love her deeply. She always comes with this air of, this feeling of just beauty and abundance and flow. And every time she comes, she brings some small presents that are just so beautiful and like a gesture, but it's just who she is. That's how she is. And she's always been like that. And when I was writing the chapter on Lakshmi, the
Mhm.
queen of abundance from Hindu mythology, I immediately thought of her, which is
Mhm.
like she is the living embodiment of taking things easy and allowing abundance to come to you and just to express it in yeah, beauty and flow.
Mhm.
So this is two examples of how these goddesses, we embody them in our everyday life. But the interesting thing is, while there will always be like a primary goddess that
Mhm.
you resonate with the most,
Sure.
it's interesting that every every other goddess uh gives you something different, gives you a little bit of her personality traits, like let's say Isis.
Mm.
whom I use in the book to represent growth and putting things together and building something sustainable that you can leave as legacy behind you. So each of them, we can pick and choose different pieces and just put them together and just be this unique blend
Mhm.
of our own goddesses.
Mm, beautiful. I love that. So, who are the goddesses? Which archetypes could you maybe share with us? Which archetypes you use, and maybe just a little bit, like you were just describing about Isis and Lakshmi and Athena. Maybe just give a little bit of information about them.
Yeah. So Athena is the strategist, right? She is the more masculine. She is about planning and pulling resources together so she can achieve her goals. Like she's the goal setter
Okay,
and go getter.
got it.
Then Lakshmi is about flow. She is, if you wish, like manifestation. She does that.
Mhm.
Everything comes to her easily.
Mm.
That's the type of energy she emits.
Okay.
We said Isis.
Mhm.
Her story is really interesting because she had her whole life like shattered, like
Mm.
torn into pieces,
Mm.
and she had to go and find each piece, bring it together, find each piece, bring it together. And out of that, she created a whole new reality for
Mm.
herself and the world, of course. This is mythology, of course.
Sure.
She creates a whole new world.
Yeah.
That's the power of Isis. Then we have also Hecate, again from Greek mythology.
Mhm.
Hecate is, while she's not a prominent goddess in mythology, there are not many stories that have Hecate play out in them. But she is seen as the goddess of mystery, of even witches.
Mhm.
Like she represents the intuition,
Ah.
and shedding the light on different paths
Mhm.
that are before us.
Mm.
So she's always depicted as wearing torches,
Ah.
like lighting the way
Uh-huh.
and holding keys.
Ah.
She can unlock these paths for you.
Okay. Oh, I'd like to learn more
And the
about.
final one,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she is really interesting. I really love her.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one that I examine in my book is Persephone.
Mm-hmm.
And with her, the story is one of total transformation. Like she was born as a goddess, as a princess, that represents spring
Mm-hmm.
and joy and youth and all the great things that we associate spring with. And then she gets suddenly kidnapped into the underworld,
Mm-hmm.
the world of the dead. So, the biggest contrast you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And her story is that she was able to overcome this, to transform her identity and become the ruler of the underworld together with her husband, of course, Hades. But this startling struggle that she had to go through is a reminder that we can all deal with the challenges and the really tough situations in our lives if we rely on our ability to adapt, to transform, to adopt a new identity, if that's what we need to do, so
Mm-hmm.
that we can take the next step in our lives.
Those are some incredible characters that you just described. I love it. Yes. And I can also see how they blend, they have elements where I could understand how just like our personalities have many different components, our relationships to money do too. So I'm just
Yeah.
sort of unpacking some of the things that you're saying and trying to make some connections here. Uh, I love this. I really love learning about mythology and archetypes. I think that we have a lot to learn from what lies in the psyche and how we can come to understand ourselves deeper in our relationships, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Um, I'd like to ask you. um, why do so many women feel disempowered from or disconnected from money, or maybe having relationships that feel stressful? And how might we women be able to shift that? Do you have some
Mm.
advice for us?
Yeah. Well, let me first start with a startling statistic that I recently heard. In a recent survey, it was revealed that 70% of millennial men are in charge of the family money,
Mm,
and 68% say that they are in charge because they want to make sure they're in a good position in a case of divorce. That was like one of the
interesting.
top reasons,
Wow.
which shocked me.
Yeah.
Well, that shocked me.
Hmm.
And I've been trying to really understand why women have this like detachment
Hmm.
from the whole money story. And I've heard so many of them just tell me, I'm not good with numbers. I'm not good with money. Whatever comes, it goes. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so they give away their power.
Mm,
They give their own power to either the husband or before that, the father or somebody else to handle that
yeah.
because for whatever deeper reasons
Hmm.
they have. Um, but it's I believe that it has to do a lot with the way the whole financial industry has been built and the way we perceive it. Because every time we think about finances and Wall Street,
Hmm.
we immediately visualize a man on the New York Stock Exchange shouting and buying and all that aggression, all that male energy, which is so foreign to us. It's not the energy that we resonate with, and so we kind of wish to stay away from it.
Right.
But I think the moment that women understand that in its essence, money is feminine energy,
Mm,
and just the way we perceive the financial world today
mm,
has put this lens on our eyes that is completely misleading.
mhm.
Let me ask you just quickly, what do you use money for the most?
Boy, that's a really good question. I think for pleasure and enjoyment and to learn, the things that I spend my money on are typically on deepening my understanding of myself. I take classes in, I also, but not just for intellectual purposes, but also to maybe learn a new skill, whether it's tennis or golf or, a sport for one thing.
Mm.
Um, I also for travel. I travel quite a bit. My children live far away from me, so I spend a lot of my money on travel.
Yeah. And if you add like the major spends on food,
Yeah.
right? Because that's and housing,
Yes.
and you come to understand, yeah, you
Yes, of
come to
course.
understand that the way we use money
Hmm.
is for things that feed us, grow us,
Hmm.
take care of us, of others, nurture
Right.
us and everyone else. And all of these activities are what in their essence? It's feminine energy.
Yeah.
It's growing, it's nurturing, it's
Hmm.
taking care. So money is the way we use money is tapping into its feminine energy and using it as a tool
Hmm.
to activate you know, these powers to
Sure.
take care of us and everybody else.
The thought comes to mind. I'm thinking about just a paradigm that I think women find ourselves in, and from the time we're young, and maybe it's cultural as well. But for me, growing up in a family of divorced parents in a foreign country, I was always seeking to understand who's going to take care of me. And and those are the basic needs. Like, who's going to feed me and where am I going to, live, and all of those sorts of things at a very, very basic level. And when speaking of archetypes, I think what winds up happening is, you play out the story of those younger parts of ourselves as we go through life, right? And then you're faced with, you know, um, partnering and combining finances and raising a family. And then, you're with a partner who may have very different values around money. Can you speak a little bit about that, about the values that we place on money and how we identify our roles maybe in the feminine with that? You say it's feminine energy. I think there's probably a lot to that.
Yeah, yeah. So what you brought up with the partners having different values and different ways of um, deciding where to put their money, that's one of the dominant factors in establishing like long-lasting relationships with your partner.
Mhm.
And that's I believe it was, if not the top reason, then the second top reason for divorces, because you're not on the same like vibration or
Right. Yeah,
frequency.
sure. Having
Yeah.
the same values, I think, in relationship it's something to examine at the very least. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for it, it really, I can't say like a women as a whole like to save more or spend more, because there
Sure.
are the types of women who enjoy spending, and that's okay. And the opposite for men. Do they like to buy expensive toys and technology and all of that? Or maybe they grew up in a family that taught them it is important to save. So if they meet a woman like a spender,
Mhm.
that won't work very well.
Right.
So it very much depends, yes, on the upbringing and the mindset that has evolved in each individual. But to me, I can't speak from like a model for specifically women or men because we're all so different.
Right.
There are common features, of course, but we're very, very different.
Absolutely. So then, in your experience and the body of your work, what is modern wealth? Can you describe that?
Yeah, yes, that's my favorite thing. For me, specifically, modern wealth and the way it relates to women
Mhm.
is long-term sustainable wealth.
Okay.
It's not about having more money right now, you know, having a side business or having a raise in your current job. It's about learning the essential steps to building long-lasting wealth. And when I say long-lasting, I'm talking about investments in the 10, 20, 25-year period.
Mhm.
Something that has proven to work like decades ago and now continues to work. But it takes time, it takes dedication, and that's where I would say like an archetype like Isis can help a lot because she's about persistence and just following through your strategy so that you can leave a legacy and have the life that you envision in your 60s, 70s, or maybe even earlier, depending on how you approach the strategy. But yeah, modern wealth for me is that making sure that you're following a plan
Mhm.
that will lead to better outcomes in the future. Doesn't mean that you need to deprive yourself right now of things you love or like or enjoy, but just having that balance
Mhm.
to secure your future.
Mhm. Very good. And so, do you um, do you see your work being geared to like women of all ages? That, I'm thinking of all the different ways of that women um, are out in the workforce, and there are so many different ways in which they can connect their own self-worth to maybe the amount of money that they're making. So do you see a relationship between like self-worth and net worth? And can women really reclaim all of that?
I am convinced they can.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they can. They just need to find the tools or the resources, even if you want like the teachers, and I'm not talking about specific people, but even if it's something that you accidentally come across on YouTube and it just resonates with you, stick to it. There's something in that message that's meant for you. And so my point is, whatever the means, like the specific strategy or the specific method through which you can start building up that self-esteem, because to me it has a lot to do with self-esteem,
Mhm.
specifically for women. Men don't have a problem with self-esteem. I don't know how, but women, we women have like challenges with it. So no matter what kind of message, and no matter at what age you are, to me, I think there is this specific period where women, if they had to leave the workforce for a while to take care of children, and then they are in this period where they are wondering whether to go back or they have to go back, whatever, that's a very shaky period. You feel like you've lost a few years, or you're not at par with where your industry has grown to while you were away. So that creates a lot of fear and a lot of self-doubt.
For sure.
But even younger and even older generations, I think we all can benefit from an empowering message,
Mhm.
just to lift us up,
Yeah.
even if it's just for something like everyday life. It's always so great to
Yeah.
get this inspiration.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think there's something very unique about understanding one's worth isn't necessarily hinged upon our bank account. You know,
Mm.
and I don't know about other people, but I know that for myself, for example, I have four children and I chose I had to work at times, at least part-time when they were little, until I got to a place where I'm like, I have four children. I want to be home with my kids now. And because I had an understanding on some level that it was precious time and I couldn't get that back, and that somebody else was raising my children, and I didn't want to continue down that path. So I already had four kids when that was happening, but I did decide to stay home and was able to, thankfully, at that point in my career. Um, Eventually, though, there was something that about my own self-worth, about being invested in a field, in a career, in, contributing to the society at large, that drew me back into the workforce, part-time, granted. And I found the perfect place for me to be was in school where my kids were. So being a teacher for me was absolutely perfect. I was off when they were off. And so it was like a win-win situation. So I recognized that, it was a very empowering place for me to be, because it also allowed me to have a little bit of financial independence, if you will. Not that we ever
Mm.
feel like in relationship it's mine and yours, but at the same time, there's something very empowering about earning a paycheck and coming home with your own money. You're giving it right back to your family, but still, it is, for me, it was a really important self-worth and self-value piece, to connecting to this part of myself. And that brings me to my next question, which is about how does shame and silence around women keep them stuck? And how can we break that spell?
That's a very interesting question. So about shame. When I hear shame and connected to finances and women, this book comes up in
Okay.
my mind. Uh, Probably have heard it. I've heard a lot of people talk about it and criticizing the approach where we as women are being advised to sacrifice things that we like just because it costs us like $8, $10 a day, and instead using it to invest.
Yeah.
So the whole world, like this whole financial industry, I feel like there is a conspiracy there. Everybody trying to convince women to not spend.
Hmm.
And it so when someone is telling you to reduce your spending, to contract, to try to shame you on the choices that you make, this just only perpetuates the guilt and yes, the shame of why you're spending this.
Yeah.
Instead, I choose to view spending as a way to express my values.
Hmm.
So I call it value spending.
Hmm.
I will spend on cafes. I will spend on lattes. I will spend on shoes like $200. I will spend on a fancy Italian leather bag because it tells me, first of all, that I'm worth it. I could definitely, take that on
Yeah.
me, and I'm standing for myself because I am in conscious value spending mode.
Mm.
And here I am making a distinction between impulse purchases, of
Yeah.
course, and purchases that really bring meaning to you. And it's for something that you will be enjoying for a long time, that brings you um, pleasure and
Mhm.
value, and it doesn't matter how much it costs.
I love the
So
concept.
that's how I like that.
Yeah, I love this concept that you just talked about, the conscious value spending versus impulsive spending. And yes, I totally agree with you. I think that if there's something that brings you joy and that nurtures you in whatever way, it could be a massage or it could be going and having a cup of coffee at a cafe rather than staying at home and making your own coffee. There is something about that that adds value to us, right? And I very much agree also with the impulsivity spending. Sometimes that feels like it's filling a void rather than really nourishing. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, the impulse to spend is a reaction, as you said, to a need to feel something that's missing. And in this case, I would rather sit with myself and ask myself, what am I trying to feel? Like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Instead of just going and buying the first thing that catches my eye. But with conscious value spending, it allows you to feel expansion. Every time you spend, it's not contraction, it's expansion based on the value that you're getting in exchange for the money that you're giving away. So like allocation and circulation and value for value exchange. And with conscious value spending, you're making sure that the value you're getting
Mhm.
is actually worth the value you're giving.
Yes. Absolutely brilliant. I love this concept. Yep. Very clear. Uh, so, Victoria, I have a question for you. Would you please share with our listeners who may be feeling like they're bad with money, for example? We just talked about shame and everything else, but what would be a gentle step that you would encourage for a woman to try who has a story around money that may be holding her back or feeling stuck or adding on to the shame or guilt that she already feels? What would be a step or a way forward?
So if someone comes to me and they tell me, I'm not good with numbers, I'm not good with math, with money, the the first thing that I associate this with is a deep money belief that's limiting uh, this particular person.
Yeah.
And what I would suggest is first examine all of your money beliefs.
Mhm.
Like what what do you believe to be true about money? And sometimes those, well, most of them come from our upbringing and from the culture around us. Like, for example, over here in my country, it's a very popular myth that rich people are greedy and bad.
Hmm.
So this is what we grow up with. It's like the common mindset around here. Or money doesn't grow on trees. Like it's so hard to get money.
Hmm.
Like all of these ideas,
Yes.
we need to examine them in depth.
Hmm.
And the first step is realizing what these are.
Hmm.
Then the second step is digging up where did you pick them up from?
Right.
Like, is it something somebody said? Is it just the general culture you're in? Is it something you inherited from your parents? You know, was there a particular event that led to this belief?
Yeah.
List that, try to examine in depth where
Mhm.
this came from. And then the next step is reversing the belief, like installing a new software in your mind that gives you a more empowering story. Because everything we believe about money is a story.
Right.
And if it is a story, it better be a good one and an empowering one
Yes.
rather than one that just leaves you miserable and
Absolutely.
fearful.
Hmm. Yes.
So yeah, these would be the first three steps that I would recommend.
That's beautiful. I do a lot of limiting belief work with my clients as well, and I think that it really gets to the source of where is this belief coming from, and how can I reframe it and feel better, just exactly as you said, to get to
Yeah.
a better feeling place about ourselves, which is very possible and very doable, which is one of the reasons I love coaching. And I love the work that you're doing as well, because I think this is putting out into the world possibilities, a way forward. And around money, I think is a particularly um, I don't know if touchy is the right word, but sensitive, topic for a lot of people, because as we all know, there is a lot of disparity in the world, and people can really identify with stories that are maybe ancestral, or stories that are handed down to them, and old beliefs like
Mhm.
that can be very damaging if you don't examine them. So I really appreciate
Yeah.
you mentioning that, to really do
Yeah.
reflect, find out what is your money story. I think that's extremely powerful. I think
And to
yeah,
mention the goddess archetype that can help you with that, that's totally Hecate.
okay.
Like shedding the light,
Yes,
deep work, intuition, and um, just feeling what you feel, expressing it, shedding the light on all these stories, and then transform them.
beautiful. I absolutely love this. I would like to ask you, thank you very much for sharing these initial tips. Are there any other tips you would like to share with the women who are listening around the world? If there's anything else you would like to share with us?
So yeah, my hope is that every woman can learn to be the goddess, the money goddess that she inherently is. She
Mhm.
just needs to dig her up.
Yes.
And starting with examining your beliefs and bringing in these new empowering stories into your life is absolutely doable. And well, you don't need like a complete 1 year program to, but it's an actionable step that you can take right now. And it's a beautiful step. And it doesn't cost really nothing to get a chance on it.
Mhm. Awesome. Victoria,
And yeah,
this has been so delightful. I would love for you to share with our listeners how they can find you and your book, if you would please share with us.
sure. The book is available on Amazon. By the way, it is free for Kindle Unlimited users. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can download and read it for free. The full title of the book is Unleash Your Inner Money Goddess, Ancient Female Wisdom for Modern Wealth.
Mhm.
And you can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn. I also have a blog that we can put a link to in the description, so it's easy for everyone to get there.
Wonderful. I will have all that information in the show notes at the bottom of the podcast so that listeners can certainly
Beautiful.
find you. And I intend on keeping in touch with you too, because this topic is fascinating to me. And I look forward to any kind of workshops that you may come up with in the future. Please keep us posted. And
Absolutely.
uh, Vicki, thank you so much
Absolutely.
for joining us on Into the Heart.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. It's been a delight to speak to you about these really important topics and so dear to my heart.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to